South African middleweight Dricus Du Plessis put on a striking clinic at last week's UFC 276 event, with veteran fighter Brad Tavares on the receiving end. And following the fight, Du Plessis spoke about his opponent's durability, giving Tavares the respect he had earned from his performance against the relative newcomer. Today, we are discussing Du Plessis calling Tavares the toughest MFer in the world after caving his nose in. Stay tuned. First up, let's take a quick look at Du Plessis' career so far. Dricus Du Plessis has one of the strangest styles in the entire UFC, a no-nonsense, all-attack approach, which has seen him accrue a 17-2 record since his debut back in 2013. The Pretoria man spent the first 4 years of his career fighting in EFC Africa, only tasting defeat once in his first 13 outings, a guillotine submission loss against Gareth McClellan. In his 14th outing as a professional, he was knocked out in his rematch against Roberto Soldic, but quickly found form again, racking up back-to-back wins. At this point, with a 14-2 record, he was poached by the UFC, making his debut against Marcus Perez back in October 2020, scoring a knockout win. He repeated the feat in his second fight in the organization, which had bosses excited by the potential he clearly has. This led to them putting him against divisional gatekeeper Brad Tavares, who you will remember was paired with Israel Adesanya as one of his first big tests in the promotion shortly after joining. And Du Plessis put on a good, if not slightly wild performance against Tavares, attacking from the start and attempting to pull off some pretty crazy moves. What have you guys thought of the South African's career so far? Give us your thoughts below. Next up, what did he have to say about Tavares? Stay tuned to find out. Dricus Du Plessis' UFC 276 bout with Brad Tavares ended in an absolute bloodbath, but after the fight, the South African was full of praise for his opponent. The judges scored the fight 29-28, 3 times for Du Plessis, who started the fight like a man possessed, attempting to pull off some pretty spectacular knockouts, putting absolutely everything into his punches. However, Tavares was able to weather the storm and once again proved how tough he actually is, which Du Plessis also acknowledged after the fight. After having held his own for 3 rounds against the relentless attacks of Du Plessis, Tavares won't have lost any fans, and the South African told the T-Mobile crowd after the fight, "You have the toughest motherfucker in the world right here in your town." Holy smokes, he took some big ones. I took some big ones too, but damn, that man can take a punch. Tavares had been opened up by Du Plessis and ended the fight drenched in his own blood, his bleached blonde hair matted with a red tint, and his corner would have been forgiving for throwing in the towel given the cut. But that sort of behavior isn't in Tavares' wheelhouse, which is why he is such a respected part of the middleweight division. What did you guys make of Du Plessis' performance and Tavares' never give up attitude? Let us know below. Next up, Dricus has been called out by a Brazilian. Stick around. Brazilian middleweight Caio Borralho was out at this weekend's UFC Vegas 58 event, scoring a unanimous decision win over his opponent Armen Petrosyan, brother of legendary kickboxer Giorgio. The fight featured a grapple-heavy attack from Borralho, who moved to 2-0 in his fledgling UFC career, but he wants to step up in competition next time out. After the fight, he had kind words for Petrosyan, who he described as a killer, before explaining, 6 of his 7 wins by knockout. I'm not dumb. I calculate everything, and the best calculating thing was to get him to the ground. I got the job done, that's what matters. This is exactly the sort of game plan Sean Strickland should have attempted in his recent fight with Alex Pereira, but Borralho was actually able to execute it. Following the fight, Caio wasted no time in telling the UFC who he wanted next, saying, "Dricus Du Plessis, you're the guy that I want right now. Let's see who enters the rankings. Dricus Du Plessis, I want you next, and I will be in the rankings after I beat your." Wow, big talk. Du Plessis, of course, is a heavy-handed middleweight, but he also possesses some serious skills on the ground, winning more fights by submission than he actually has by knockout. Somewhat surprisingly, who do you guys see taking the W if this one goes down? Let us know below. Du Plessis has broken into the top 15. Stay with us to hear all about it. Following his win over Brad Tavares last weekend, Dricus Du Plessis has actually moved into the rankings, ahead of his opponent. Du Plessis enters the rankings for the first time and currently occupies the 14th position, with Tavares falling 3 spots to 15. Du Plessis had urged fans to remember the name after his 3-round beating of Tavares. Whilst being interviewed by Joe Rogan after the fight, he said, "For those who forgot, it's Dricus Du Plessis. Remember the name. I told you it would be a household name in the top 10 soon. Thank you, Vegas." And those who decide the rankings were clearly listening to Du Plessis, as they inserted him into the top 15 in the world for the first time. Du Plessis nearly gifted Tavares a win in the first round, and after attempting a suplex, which could have ended ended disastrously against a higher-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, and after the fight, he said, "I could feel that I was quite a bit stronger than him, so I wanted to go for the suplex, and as I picked him up, my hand just slipped up, and that overhook just slipped a little, and then it was pulling him right on top of me. There was no sweat, so he was just stuck on top of me." Do you guys think Du Plessis is deserving of his place in the top 15? Give us your thoughts below. So who does Dricus himself want next time out? Stick around to hear about it. Du Plessis moved to 3-0 in his fledgling UFC career, following his win over Brad Tavares at UFC 276, and also entered the rankings for the first time in doing so. And shortly after the fight, the South African revealed who he would like to go up against next time out, explaining that the decision win over Tavares gave him the in-octagon experience he was looking for in the UFC. His first 2 fights ended in quick knockouts, but following the Tavares fight, he explained, "If a decision had to be like that, I'll go to a decision every time," alluding to the fact he is happy to go the distance if it means exciting fights. He went on to speak of how now he has his octagon time. He is ready to make a push for the top 10. And given the fact he was scheduled to fight middleweight stalwart Kelvin Gastelum before he had to pull out back in April due to injury, Du Plessis has said he wants to reignite that meeting. He said, "The fight was basically already made. I did him a solid, I did the UFC a solid to take that fight on very short notice." Suggesting the UFC owes him, he went on to say, "I'm fighting the big dogs now. If they don't want to make the Gastelum fight, give me someone else in the top 10. Whoever they want to give, I'm ready. I think tonight proved that." Who do you have if he goes up against Gastelum? And finally, middleweight legend GSP has given his thoughts on who he would like to face if he was forced into a comeback. As far as we know, many people's GOAT, George St. Pierre, has no plans to make a comeback, but should he ever change his mind, he has a few names who excite him. The Canadian is one of the best to ever do it, but many fans have suggested that he could still do it if he chose to. And Rush was asked recently who could maybe tempt him back, saying, "If I had to come back and fight today, the 3 current fighters I would choose to fight, and I won't because I don't want to come back, but if I would have come back, I would want to be the best. So I'd fight the best guys, maybe Usman, Chimaev, and Khabib if he would still be there. But unfortunately for me and the fans and everybody, it's not gonna happen because I'm done and I don't miss it at all." The Khabib fight has long been touted as one which could settle a huge GOAT debate, but it sounds as though GSP is completely done with all that, and we don't blame him. Fight camps look like no fun whatsoever. Who is your GOAT? Let us know below. Thanks for stopping by today, and remember to tune in again next time for some more interesting bits and pieces. And why not do us a solid by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Bye guys!